There is a dialog box for energy settings. So once you're ready to analyze your building, you can go and you can assign an occupancy to the building, and you can also apply the type of construction for the floors and the walls and the roof, as well as say, is it single glazing or double glazing. So think of those as macro scale values. They're global values being applied to the different building components for the whole model. And from this, you're going to generate a surface model that can be analyzed. So those energy settings, like is it a residential, is it an office, that will go about creating zones in the building where initially the whole building is maybe an office. But once you've worked at the macro level, you can go back later and you can make changes so that you can pick the zones that it creates, and you can, at the micro level, you could go back and change it to say, okay, no, this is actually an office but it's a storage area, or this is actually car parking. You could change the activity. You've got, when you specify the type of building, say an office, there are assumptions made with regard to the lighting and equipment, and that contributes to the loads for the building itself. You know, they're generating heat. You're also specifying the materials, and that has a U value or an R value that has to do with the level of insulation. And so you're very quickly establishing some defaults on the macro scale that you're going to go through, and later on, once you've started at this macro scale, you can come back. You've gone through this whole process of establishing doing the simulation and looking at the reports. You can come back later and make changes that are more refined for different parts of the building. In this project, a simple mass family has been placed on the foundation level, and the floors 0-1 floor and 0-2 floor have been applied to the mass form. So I'm ready to do the analysis. My first step here under the energy settings is I can choose a building type, and there's lots of different building types available on the list here. You would choose the one that's appropriate or closest to the building that you're actually designing. On the right here, what I'm bringing up is a screen capture from the help file that shows the values that are actually associated with your choice of office. So you can see where the, for example, the number of people assumed to be in the building comes from, in terms of number of people per area, and also things like lighting fixtures, miscellaneous equipment. So my next step is under the energy model itself. I can say that I want to create an energy model. I need to put the checkbox in. The perimeter offset will give me a sealed airspace, if you like, back from the outside perimeter of the building. Default setting is 15 feet. I'm just going to leave it at that initially. Divide perimeter zones, if I check that on, it'll divide those areas up and make adjustments relative to the size of the building as to how many divisions there are. Conceptual constructions, if I say edit, you can see that the mass itself has these different categories of information: the exterior wall, mass exterior wall, interior wall, exterior wall, underground, roof, floor, slab, glazing, skylight. All of these on the right hand side here are default settings. And again, you can set the values to whatever you want. Let me bring up an illustration on the right here to give you an idea of what the actual settings give you, which is to do with the physical properties of the wall, probably most specifically the R value or U value, depending on how you think about walls and whether they're good insulators or bad insulators. So typically here it's the R value. A high R value indicates high insulation. And this could be applied to all of these, and you find all of the values in the help file. Percentage glazing, you can set this to whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it at the default of 40. Sill height, you can set that to any height that you want. If you specified such a high percentage of glazing that it couldn't keep the 2'6" sill height, then it will move the bottom of the glazing down. Is the glazing to be shaded or not? At the moment I'm saying it's not shaded. If I did, I'll be able to choose a shade depth. Percentage skylights, I'm saying none at the moment. Building operating schedule, I'm just going to bring up the value on the right hand side. When I said office, it assumed this kind of occupancy for the building. If I were to want to change that, I could come down here and I could actually change the value from the occupancy associated with the building type. I'm not going to change it, just wanted to show you that you could change it. HVAC system, there's many different types. I'm just going to leave it with the default at the moment. And indoor outdoor air information, I'm not changing any of this at the moment, I'm just leaving that with the defaults. So what I want you to see is when I click OK, I see the values applied, and I can look at the model as a mass form, surface model like this, or a show mass zones. I'm going to run the energy study for this, so I'll just say analyze the model. So I did the first pass and I've got my energy model. If I look at the report here, you can see what it looked like. I'll click on that to return to the report, and probably my most important information here is the kilowatts. Now I can follow on from doing the analysis at the macro level by working in a bit more detail at the micro level. You see if I can control the display by going mass form, surfaces or zones. And if I'm working on surfaces, I can use the tab key to select the surface. I can come down and I can change the value from use the energy settings to let me provide values by face. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I set the percentage glazing to 80%, and let me say that glazing is shaded, and then I want a shade of, I'm going to make it 4 feet just so we can see what's going on here. And now if you look at the graphic of the surface here, you can see what's happened is that I've now got a shade on that surface. Let me do it one more time just so you see what's going on. So I did a tab, selected the surface, and now kind of at the micro level I'm going down and I'm overruling the general settings and applying whatever values I want to it here. So let's say it is shaded, and the 4 foot. So they're making my changes to the south side of the building. Now also, while viewing like this, if I change something to say show zones, then you'll see that what I've got is when I pick on a zone, like the center of the building here, it's zoning it according to the building, which was just office. But if I wanted to, I could come down and I could be a bit more specific. Let me see if I can do this here. If I go down to, actually if I type in O for office, that should take me down close to my options. And if that office part is open plan, so what I can do is change there, which is going to change the occupancy and the assumptions regarding miscellaneous equipment and lighting and all of those things. And then I'm ready to do another analysis. However, just before I go to do the other analysis, what I want to show you is that You can also use this option. It might make it easier to select things inside your project. So if I switch to the option that says show mask by view, what I'm really saying is I'm going to use the view graphics of a particular view to decide exactly what is displayed. So say under the mass here, I'm going to turn them all on just so you can see this. So that is now me controlling what's shown in here according to the view graphics. Right. So the significance of this is that if I switch back to let me make the change by turning it off here. I want to just show you that the view graphics, let me turn off the mass option here because I want to show you a better option. I can have particular views like here set up so that the view itself, if I look at the view graphics, you'll see what I've done is I turned off everything except for mass forms, and under the mass forms just display the mass zones. So if you look at the other ones that I've got here, the views that I saved, roof, I'm only displaying roof. Internal walls, I'm only displaying the internal walls with the dividers. So that was where I had the 15-foot zone around the outside. Glazing, I'm only displaying the glazing. So this would actually make it easier to access the information to make changes for the overrides. The example I'm going to use here is I'm going to pick the glazing. I'm just going to hold the control key and pick those two large panels here. Let me do it tab and select and control and pick. No, I'm going to hold over here. I'm going to say tab and select. Then I'm going to come down and change the settings. So for example here I'm going to say let's do single pane, let's do double pane tinted. Right. And down here tab and select double pane tinted. So I'm making those changes in my model and kind of at a micro scale, providing overrides for my project. So let me go and do the analysis now with those overrides. Click on the detailed study is now finished. If I look at this, I can go down and I can look at the values here to see if there are improvements or not. And I could also select both of the reports and compare them side by side. So if I scroll down through here, hard to show.